Horimiya is by far one of the best romance anime that I've ever seen. It may be in many cases just another regular romance slice of life at first, but as the story progresses, it fleshes out more and more to a point where you're nothing but drawn in. However, the story itself is not what makes Horimiya stand out to me, but other subtle cues, such as Horimiya's use of color is, simply put, beautiful. It doesn't bombard you with flashing colors everywhere or have this super colorful atmosphere. In general, Horimiya has a pretty blandish color palette, with some exceptions of hair colors among some characters. But it doesn't always stay this way. Horimiya turns already decently emotional moments into masterpieces of simple color. It turns everything in the background white and silhouettes the characters in the scene in a color. This sort of scene happens almost in every episode of the show, and every time it's happened, it sends shivers down my spine. The creators are just making these scenes more impactful by not only subtly changing the dynamic of the scene, but in a cinematic sense, it makes a truly beautiful moment. In these scenes, two colors are mostly always used in these silhouettes, blue and red, with yellow also being used in some scenes. These are very predominant colors when being used for emotion, neither having one particular emotion, but a vast variety. Red being used for anger, jealousy, love, embarrassment, the list goes on. Blue has cases of sadness, depression, loneliness, calmness, understanding. Using these two colors in particular adds to each of these scenes a sense of emotion that's expanded upon with what we know from the characters already. There are so many scenes that use this idea to portray the deep emotions that characters are feeling. Miyamura in this scene is bathed in a deep blue color, depicting a lack of self-worth when it comes to being worthwhile to Hori, not wanting to hold her back. Hori, meanwhile, is surrounded in a deeper red, bashed with anger and confusion for why Miyamura would say such a thing about her without knowing her feelings. It makes an emotional scene important to their relationship development, as Hori shows in the next scene some of how she truly feels. Right from episode 1, it sets a precedent of quality that the show will continue, and even improve on as it builds its story. On another hand of the use of color, there's also an amazing use of lighting in the show. Lighting in film and media in general is such an important part of the process. Having different uses of lighting can signify dramatic changes for a character, how they feel, and how they're perceived in a perspective of another. Horimiya uses these lighting techniques very effectively when it comes to driving out the emotions of characters. Whether or not these uses of lighting are obvious, they are intended to subconsciously implant these emotions in your head too, showing the genius of this technique not used in many anime that I've watched or have noticed. An early example of this would be from episode 2, where Hori is talking to the president about an important paper that she quote-unquote lost. Hori's face in particular is shrouded in shadow, being controlled into something that she knows is in the wrong. The president's face, however, is shrouded in light, a light of knowing. He has this intimidating power from his position that is overwhelming Hori. Hori, shrouded in this shadow, doubts herself. She, in a sense, starts to submit to the power that the president has over her, his intimidating glow that he has from his backlighting, almost apologizing even while not being in the wrong. That's until Miyamura steps in. This sense of not knowing and submission is instantly vanished as Miyamura comes to save her. When he touches her shoulder in support, she's immediately flushed into light, burning away the doubts she's had. It throws the scene to such an important moment for Hori, being able to know that she could rely on Miyamura and her faults for standing up for her in such a way. Horimiya has so many of these moments, being shrouded in shadow while other characters in the foreground bask in light, representing want and desire that they may never have. It elevates Horimiya into a whole new level of greatness and depth into their story. This is the point where I'll be dipping much more heavily into spoiler territory, so if you haven't watched the show, I strongly recommend you to please go watch it. It truly is one of the most well-written stories when it comes to character development. Go on, watch it. I'll wait. Alright, you done? Can we go on? Alright. Horimiya's character development is spectacular. Every main character in the show gets their own moments in the light, all of them being able to show their development, their own feelings, and none of them can strive off to be one-note character nobodies. I'll go into detail for one of my favorites, because if I were to go into each individual character, I would be here for a while. Sakura Kono is a shy, reserved character in the student council. We get to see that she has a crush on one of the main characters of the friend group named Toru. Sakura, being the reserved person that she is, keeps this largely to herself, afraid of the rejection that she thinks she would immediately come to her due to thinking she's not cute enough or good enough. She's immediately seen right through from her childhood friend Remy, pushing to know what's going on with Sakura. Sakura sort of snaps on her, pushing her away. However, remembering that Remy was with her since she was very early on, regrets it and goes back to her, telling her about liking Toru, and as well as being afraid that she's not good enough. Remy shuts it down immediately by telling Sakura that she's very cute, giving Sakura a new sense of confidence. A few episodes later, we return to Sakura's story. Toru is walking by with the class trash and accidentally runs into Sakura, spilling coffee on her uniform. He quickly runs off to get her a school jacket for her to wear and cover it, which she happily accepts. In return for the jacket, she makes cookies for him and tries to give them to him when she returns the jacket, but nearly falls short of giving him the cookies, reverting back to her old reserved self. But then, while he's leaving, she shouts out to give him the cookies. Doing this, she breaks out of her mold, breaking away from the shy and reserved girl she was before, finding that strength that Remy helped provide her with. This goes on a few times, Sakura giving Toru cookies, all the while Yoshikawa, another one of the friend group, is jealous of her, envious. She likes Toru too. Out of certain circumstances, Toru and Yoshikawa have to pretend to date, making Sakura ask if they're dating or not. Yoshikawa, being jealous and not wanting Toru to go out with Sakura, says yes, lying to her. This hurts Sakura, Yoshikawa saying that she's never seen someone's lip tremble like that. Sakura is next seen walking into the president's office asking what he's doing. She then sees Yoshikawa and Toru outside walking together, not listening to any of the words that the president is saying. She then tries to rush out of the room to avoid having her emotional side show, where the president stops her and asks her what's wrong, where she admits that she was rejected before admitting her real feelings. The president replies with essentially, "What kind of moron wouldn't want to be with you?" After this, Sakura breaks down crying, revealing her emotional side with no care anymore. Part of Sakura's character is a fear of rejection. Sakura is shy and reserved at first, not letting her feelings show at all. This fear of rejection overwhelmed her to not pursue any further. However, after gaining the confidence from her childhood friend and starting to make moves on Toru, she was shot down completely, without him even knowing her true feelings for him. It's heartbreaking. In the last episode of the show, there is one last scene with the two of them together after graduation. Toru runs into Sakura, where Sakura thanks Toru. She thanks him for making this year one of the most fun years she's had, largely in part of him, and that she would never forget him. Sakura in this scene brings another part of her character, acceptance. She's accepted that no matter how you yearn for something, that sometimes it's just out of your hands. She's learned to accept rejection instead of being afraid of it, something that is important to learn to grow as a person. Being shackled by nerves or fear is never something that one should strive for. She was able to break those shackles, only being able to do so after facing what she personified at first, that fear of rejection. Sakura is one of the characters that get the least amount of screen time dedicated to her. However, her character is still extremely important to storytelling as a whole, going to prove that Horimiya's character development and story to be truly one of my favorites. Also, if you think Yoshikawa is terrible for what she did, you didn't watch the show like I told you to. Go watch it. The characters in this show, as I've just finished describing, are all written just as well. But there's actually another key point to the whole idea. That being the characters actually just feel and act like humans. Anime is meant for entertainment. It's just a show that people watch to escape from reality. Because of this, there are lots of times where characters in anime do anime things. They get into incredibly wacky scenarios that cause them to act out on one another, making these hilarious and ridiculous things happen. Characters beat each other up and do inhumane things to each other just to get a laugh out of the audience. Don't get me wrong, these are things that are perfectly fine in anime and are required in many anime. In romance anime, however, wacky scenarios just draw away from the romance that the series is trying to portray. That's where Horimiya comes in. Horimiya has absolutely grounded their characters in reality. There obviously is the occasional wacky scenario from here and there, but in general, the characters act like real people. This goes even further for Hori and Miyamura's relationship. The dynamic between these two's relationship can only be described in a few words. That being that it just feels like a real relationship. They have their moments together, they talk like normal human beings to each other. Whenever they get into a fight, they go through the emotions that comes with those fights and they talk them out in a very real way. Whenever I was watching those two together, I just kept thinking about how everything they're doing and saying is just something that real couples can go through. It's something that a lot of other romance anime just don't do. Grounding your characters so much like this can backlash into people becoming bored of it. But the way that Horimiya developed their characters keeps people drawn in, despite how grounded and real each situation may be. Horimiya has so many more characters, so many more themes, so many more moments, so much more than what I can portray in this video. It's one of, if not the greatest romance anime I've seen, pushing through the competition with some of the best writing. This show is so amazing that it made me create a channel just to gush about it because I adored it so much. It brightened my view on many subjects and related to me in certain topics that made me realize a lot about many things. It's a masterpiece, nothing less. Thank you guys so much for watching. This is a redone video from my first video I've done on this channel since the audio sounded like this.
Horimiya is by far one of the best romance anime I have ever seen.
Yeah, that's not seeing the light of day again. If you like this analysis, consider liking and subscribing for more analysis like it in the future. I do plan on redoing my Saitama analysis as well to fix that audio quality, but I will have new original content coming very soon. Thank you very much again, and I'll see you in the next video.